Now, as we move into the tools section, the fields, and the effects, one thing I want to remind you of is that all of these effects and tools are stackable, so you can apply them onto one another and create some interesting effects. We've actually supplied some presets and scene examples so you can see this in action more. Let's take a look at the MoGraph Animator, one of my favorite tools. It allows you to apply animation without any keyframes. Here, I've added it to my object. You can choose to apply position animation, rotation, and scale. So I will check on position, twirl this down, and choose what position. I'm going to animate on the x-axis here. Now, we have various options here. First, we have the position min and max. These are measured in meters. So here I have -5 meters to 5 meters on the x-axis with a speed multiplier of 1. Now, what the speed multiplier means is 1 second for the animation to complete. So since I have 24 frames per second in my scene, you can see it's actually playing the animation twice in this 48 frame period. Now, if I come up here, it's currently set to repeat, but I can also set it to ping pong, where we'll bounce back and forth between those two positions. Down here at the interpolation, I can play with the easing. So if I set this to ease cubic, you can see how I am creating a much softer animation. Then I can just check off and apply this to each position as I see fit. I can also apply it to all at once and create some pretty interesting effects. Now I want to speak to the timing a bit more so that you can effectively get loops. The ping pong is playing the animation forward and then back. That means at 1 second, ping pong will be 2 seconds long because it has to play the animation both ways. So by doing 48 seconds, I will get a perfect loop. However, let's say I want this to be a bit slower. So I want this to be half a second to complete. Let's say I want this animation to be a bit slower. So I set it to 0.5. And now you can see it's only playing out 1. That's because we're playing at half speed. So if I were to double this and set this to 96, you'll see that I again get a perfect loop. So that's how you use the speed multiplier and the frames to get the correct loops. Now let's go ahead and try rotation. We'll turn on rotation, X rotation, and hit play. And you'll notice nothing happens here. And that might seem like it's broken, but it's actually expected behavior. Now, the majority of the MoGraph Toolbox tools are looking for instances in order to apply their effects and animations. So that's why I want to call this out at the beginning of the video. If I were to, for example, add an array here and bring this above, you'll see that now it is working because it has instances above it to work with. However, without this array here, it's just viewed as an object. Let's say that you want to use our tools on objects that are not part of an array system. Well, we have a tool for that as well, and that is called the object to instance. So if I go ahead and drag this up here, you'll see that now our object has become an instance and is compatible with the entire toolbox. So just keep in mind that when you are working with our tools, it is looking for instances, and you may need to drag an object to instance on something if it's not part of an array system. But with that being said, let's get back to the animator here. You can see that we have all the various options we had before, and likewise with scale, we have the same exact options here as well. Now down here at the bottom, we have the option to randomize any of these fields. Let's use rotation as an example. I'm going to check on rotation here, and I can set a random value. I'm going to set something like -45 and 45 across these as well. I'm going to turn off the objects to instance here, and I'm going to turn on the MoGraph array. And you can see that every object within the array is rotating at a different rotation value. Now lastly, we have the prune option down here. You see that you have adjustments for rotation, position, and scale. This allows you to prune at random which objects are actually being affected by animation. I'm going to turn off the randomize here. We can see that everything here is rotating in order, and if I turn the prune mode down, it will begin randomly selecting which ones are animated. So this is another way that you can add variety to your animations with the animator. Let's take a look at a practical example of the animator in use. Here I have this little rocket ship animation, and this scene is included for you to reference. And if I click our rocket here, you can see that I actually have 2 animators on this. Let's take a look at the first animator. The first animator has a position with a Z position going back and forth, and then we have a rotation with a Z rotation, allowing it to spin. But I wanted it to look like it was kind of careening out of control a bit. So I actually added a second animator. This animator also has a rotation, but is only the Y rotation and moves back and forth on a -5 degree rotation, resulting in this charming little wobbly animation. Now let's take a look at the curve tool. I'm really excited about this because we actually have taper options built into our curve tool, and we also have the ability to do dashed lines. But let's go through all of the features that we have. First up, we have the curve mode. Now, draw curve will just be whatever curve that you have drawn into the object. We also have the ability to choose curve if you want to choose a different curve in the scene, and we have the option to choose grease pencil and it's fully compatible with Grease Pencil as well. Now, all the other options are the same, so I'm just going to revert to Draw Curve, and we're going to walk through those options now. Next up, we have the Curve Sweep type. This will determine what shape is being swept across the curve. By default, it's set to circle. You can also do a quad there and fill the caps. We have the option for a star. We have the option for a custom curve, where you can choose any custom curve profile, and it will sweep across the object. And then I'm excited about the option that we have, dashed line. Now, when you choose dashed line, you'll get a bunch of options down here. We'll go through those a bit later. For now, I'm going to revert back to the circle. Now, we have the option here for rounded caps. Currently, we support one curve per curve tool object. So rounded caps will break if you have multiple curves on your object. If people feel this is troublesome, we'll work on adding support for multi-curve in a new update. Now, below the rounded capsule, you have the option to apply some rings and also at what distance the cap will merge with your object there. Usually just leaving it at the default is enough. Below that, we have the options of our curve sweep type, where we can set the resolution, and we can also set the radius as well. Now, by default, curve interpolation is set to evaluated. But if I set it to count, I can manually control how many edge loops I want to appear on that curve. I also have the option for length, but we'll base it off of the length as well. We have the ability to add noise to our curve here, and you can scale and move that noise around with these controls. Below that, we have the taper controls, allowing you to control the size and direction of the taper. Beneath that, we have the ability to trim from either the beginning or the end of the curve. And then lastly, we allow you to set the material for your curve here. Let's turn back to the dashed line here. We have the option for a rounded capsule, where you can set the capsule radius, length, height, the axis it rotates on, and the rotation offset. We also have the option for a quad. This will give you more of a blocky dashed line, where again, you have controls for the rotation, the axis, and more. But you can also choose to bevel the edges here and give yourself a rounded cube look. Next up, let's take a look at the MoGraph connector. So I'm going to grab the object here, and we're going to look at some of the effects there. Here you can see I've placed it on top of an array and a transform. Again, showing that we can just stack our effects on one another to create some really interesting effects. So the connector just connects from one instance to another. You have a radius option here, and you can choose your material for the object. Up here, you can choose the curve type, Catmull-Ron, Poly, Bezier, and NURBS. I usually use these top two. Now, this is mostly intended for array systems. However, it is possible to use it on other objects. Let me show you how. Here I have 3 objects. I'm going to add another object to our scene here and apply it here. Now, we need to use an objects to instances in order for it to recognize them. So I'm going to grab the objects to instance, drag this at the top here, and by default, it's going to set the fracture type to the existing object. But let's choose the collection here. I can come up here and choose MoGraph, and you can see here that it is now drawing a line between these. So if you wanted to, for example, come up here and grab these, you could then animate these around and create some interesting animations manually. Likewise, if I turn off this collection here, I can also choose Object here. If I tab into Edit Mode here and just scale this down, duplicate this over, you can see how it's actually drawing between all those objects within the scene there. So that's another way that it can be used as well. Here you can see I have a practical example of where to use a tracer. Here I've used it to create this DNA strand. Now the Wiggler here is intended to smear mesh back and forth. This is different than the animator because this is actually adjusting the vertex points and creating some kind of smeared effects. You can adjust the wavelength, the speed, and more. But I think this would be easier to show you a practical example. Let's take a look at this rocket beam here. So this rocket beam in the back is actually using this Wiggler to create that wiggle motion. Let's take a look and apply it ourselves. Here I have the amplitude set to 1. We can see here how I can add it to the x-axis of the object, the y-axis, which won't do much in this case because there's no depth, or the z-axis here. So I'm going to add a little bit of motion to both the x and the z-axis. Now you can kind of see how we're getting a waveform there. I can adjust the wavelength and make those waves long and slow, or I can make them very short and sporadic. I'm going to set mine to 15. Then down here, I can adjust the speed. On top of this, I've applied a subdivision, and now I have a smooth trail. I wanted it to match the shape of the rocket, so I just put an animator on it and made it match the same exact specs as the rocket's X position.